Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Eli, Chocolate Saiyan, Father of a Stolen Child, Neil, the Adam Meakin, Arwin, Brian's Logic. Did I miss anybody? I don't believe I did. Also a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, good afternoon. Full house today.
Yeah, quite busy.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Everyone doing well?
Good
On this fine Friday?
morning.
Good. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
Does my diagram prove this?
Got a diagram?
No, you can't.
Hold on, just give me a second. Let's put it up. No.
And no, you can't. In fact, they don't even claim that you do. They just say, no, it's fine, because at the point at which I'm standing, I can just utilize this point right here as a plane.
And what's the sextant mirror pointing at?
A horizontal plane.
But then you're establishing a horizontal plane. Let's move on. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Definitely not, because if curve was right earlier and you had a tangent line of sight, then the horizon distance would be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And since the Black Swan, the horizon has been miles and miles beyond that, debunking that it's a geometric sphere edge with a radius of 3,959 miles. So, no.
So in conclusion, the Earth is not a sphere and the horizon is not an Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation? Go on, Brian. Go.
Yeah, I just want to say after Eli that, no, it's impossible for that to, what you asked for evidence of that, which is the sphere edge horizon or curvature, as impossible because celestial navigation have to use parallel zeniths. That would require diverging zeniths, and you can't use diverging zeniths with celestial navigation. All zeniths have to be parallel, but you can't have parallel zeniths on a sphere.
You want to see Zanuck bullshitting and lying about that very subject? Become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, because I don't know when I'm going to release those videos, but they're currently available to members if you want to check them out. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Any evidence of the distance to the Sun? Well, I can see how keen you all are to get involved with this housekeeping session. I'm really appreciative of the enthusiasm level.
We're just offering the ballers a chance to speak.
Are there any ballers?
I was just going to say that too.
Any ballers? I don't know if there are any. Does anybody know if any of the people in Discord? I'm asking Discord this question. Are there any ballers in there? I'm asking the
There's
regulars.
some skanks skanking around here.
In VC, Stag, in VC.
Yes, sir. Skanking it up.
Yeah. So who is in VC that's a baller, if anybody? Voice chat. Just a mumble and a mutter, that's all I'm getting. God.
Been sectioned.
Pardon? Just getting one-word answers from Discord. My God, it kills the moment if I try and get Discord to participate in any meaningful way.
No, there's no ballers in there.
No, okay.
Peaceful warrior might be.
No, Peaceful Warrior I don't think is. Okay, let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, there's no scientific evidence of gravity. You would have to prove its existence first.
They don't know what it is.
Moments like those that gave Darth ammunition when he would make up those slides. I wish I'd put some. Maybe I did put one or two in the slideshow. I can't remember. But if it pops up, I'll make a note of it. But what he did was he had a fake or faux Discord pretend chat like I've got, right? So he's got this Discord chat along the side of his image when he's taking the piss out of us. And in there, he's got 999,000 participants. It's absolutely chock-a-block. And then Ethan Woodley, the piss-take equivalent of me, does exactly what I've just done. Tries to get basically blood out of a stone by asking Discord for something, and there's just a tumbleweed sound effect and nothing happens. Times have changed since Darth made those videos as well, but by the same token, before he made those videos, it was a very different story. It'd be the equivalent of Discord was just the G+ server, and it was a free-for-all. The link was public. And, like I said in the pre-show, there was often times it was me against 10 ballers, because unbeknownst to them, they were already in a winning position when they begged the question with the calculator of Earth curve. Scientific evidence of gravity. Anybody at all?
I was going to ask you, did you ever go back and listen to the first 100 shows recently with
Not
the
recently.
knowledge you have now?
I have after the fact. A chunk of time has elapsed and then I've gone back and listened to the old shows, but not recently. I don't have time.
I think it'd be interesting.
Helium puddles is the proof.
Sorry, helium bubbles is a scientific evidence of gravity.
Puddles.
There are no helium puddles. What are you talking about? Gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. Now, if that volume is already occupied by another gas, that will impede the dispersion. That's entropy. But it will still ultimately disperse throughout the container. That's entropy. So when you say pool or puddle of helium, what are you babbling about?
Well, what if you...
that would be the natural consequence if you believed that gas had a downward factor. Right? They never really say it like that, although some have actually literally ended up saying that in the end.
Well, like Thunderfoot, gas go down, go boom, boom. Here's my bouncy balls poured into a fish tank example to demonstrate how gas goes down, go boom, boom.
Right, well, that's a metaphorical analogy, right? It's a metaphor, but some, I guess, have said, like, yeah, if you have a chamber and you put helium in it, it will eventually end up more at the bottom. Who's saying that again? Maybe this is Bob.
Idiots,
I'm not sure.
anti-flat earthers, Thunderfoot.
Right. So if you ask, hey, scientific evidence of gravity, my immediate response is going to be helium puddles.
Still get people commenting on those videos. It's always an ad hom. Oh, you're an idiot. Do you think you're more smart than PhD clown Thunderfoot? And my response is always the same. So you think gas goes down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank?
Well, with the helium, if you take and put it in a container and you increase the pressure to the point that there's no that the gas takes on a liquid-like behavior, would there be a puddle of helium then?
There is no puddles of helium. What are you talking about?
No. Well, it will be puddles, but it would be liquid helium, not in its gaseous state, right? That's like in a gas tank. Yeah, you might be able to pressurize it until the point that it is literally a puddle, but it's only because it's now a liquid.
It's not now a
gas.
liquid. No, that's incorrect. You're describing a compressed gas. That would be to say that you take the gas and you force out all of the gaps, or, to put it another way, force all of the gas itself closer and closer and closer together. Well, then it behaves like a liquid, and that would be described as a fluid state. Well, it's still a gas. It's just a highly compressed gas with very few gaps. So if the particles are rubbing against each other, that's liquid-like, but it's not a liquid.
Hold on. But if it looks like a liquid, it behaves like a liquid, it's kind of a liquid. Right?
No,
just because if you unpressurize it, it would immediately resort back to a gas. But
no, it is a gas.
In that format,
No. You're confusing highly compressed gases, which are described as, in some instances, fluids, which is a liquid-like state, but it is a gas. It's not a liquid.
What's the what? But I don't get it. It's all about like the intermolecular bond behavior, and
that's the
if
point.
It behaves like
well,
a
they're
liquid.
not bonded.
Is it a liquid?
That's the point. They're not bonded. They're just compressed together. So while they slip over each other without any gaps between them, you could say, well, that's very much like a liquid. Other than there's no bonds, there's no intermolecular bonds. So no,
Nathan, you're wrong.
No,
You're
I
wrong.
thought so.
When
the pressure creates.
Hold
the
on,
bonds.
hold on. Brian's saying I'm wrong. Let's hear Brian. Go on.
Yeah, you're wrong. When a gas becomes a liquid, it's then in a liquid state.
Sorry, when a gas becomes a liquid. Yeah, we're not talking about that, though, are we? We're not talking about a phase change. We're just talking about a highly compressed gas in a very small amount of space.
We are talking about
pressurization.
You're all correct.
Change.
Oh,
You're
there
all
we go.
correct.
Mostly me, though.
Mostly you, obviously, but then mostly all these points are correct because we're at this point where we probably will have some phase changing to a liquid, but some, as you describe, this is a very, excuse the right word, fluid point, isn't it, in terms of what's happening? Some are doing this, some are doing the other, some are restricted, some are escaping off because there's less volume. Where we're moving away from compression, you've got different areas of pressure as well, because we're creating such a dynamic system that what's regulating it as well is the gas pressure itself that's causing it. It's not really the temperature, it's just the amount of pressure you've got. So I would say you're both correct, because all of those
not
things
at all. That was akin to what Brian said. If you're saying you force it into a position where it undergoes a phase change, then it is liquid at that point because it's undergone a phase change. That's not what I'm talking about. That just is a liquid.
Hold on.
That's what we were talking about.
Let me try to explain it a little bit better. See, pressure affects the temperature at which a phase change will occur.
We're not talking about phase changes. If we've got
the more pressure that is in the system, the different temperature the phase change will occur at. So how do we know that it's not a phase change?
Sorry,
Nathan's talking pre this, I assume.
Say again, Adam.
Just when we've got a very, very highly pressurized gas, but we're not getting phase change, then yes, some of the behavior you're seeing, because it's so impinged, the intermolecular movements, because there is nowhere to move, you can describe it as a fluid.
Thank you, Adam, for confirming how 100% correct I was. Yes, I'm not talking about forcing something to undergo a phase change. You can describe how you give it a different amount of heat or whatever other influence you want to cause that phase change, but then you do have a liquid. It's just in liquid form because it's undergone a phase change. And then what I'm talking about.
Right, and
So
it's different with different gases. It's different with different gases.
Okay, different with different gases. Is
Go on,
there
Eli.
a visual difference between this fluid-like state and when it actually changed phases? Is this observable?
Yes.
Well, there you go. So then you are talking about two different things.
Yes and no. They're linked by the question that's going to follow. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Oh, no. God, no. God, no.
So this I don't want to call it a segue because it isn't a tangent. That's a reasonably up-to-date word. The tangent off the subject matter, which is gas pressure without a container, can be discussed in its minutiae in terms of phase changes, etc., etc. However, every single discussion will work on the premise that we have containment in order to achieve gas pressure. So this discussion takes place in a very small container, correct?
We've been discussing the nuances of what pressure changes can do. To have pressure, you first of all must have containment to then have the delta of the effects that the pressure can elucidate in terms of phase changes or intermolecular spaces. But all of that is premised by the fact that to change the pressure, you have to have containment.
Perfect. Thank you for the summary. Anybody got anything to add on that housekeeping question? Gas pressure without a container? Can't be done.
Where's your container at, flat earthers?
Sorry, what?
Helium bottles.
Let's address that. Sorry, what container did I claim?
You're saying that we can't have gas pressure without a container.
That's correct.
I infer there must be a container. So where's your container at?
What gas pressure were we talking about when you talk about the container I haven't yet claimed? Which gas pressure were we specifically referring to? I haven't made a claim about any containment of anything. I've made a statement of fact that without the container there can be no pressure. Actually, that's a quote from Conspiracy Cats. My bad. Either way, yeah, that's a statement of fact. I mean, I haven't made any claims about any specific containment. I haven't said, well, if you've got a load of oxygen, it will require a container thus. I haven't made any such claim yet.
Well, we're breathing air. There's gas pressure on Earth. So
you would therefore, when talking about the air as you have brought it up, you would need to infer that gas has containment then, because you're the one discussing that, and you're now making a claim about the air we breathe. I didn't make that claim. You did. Where's your dome?
Gas doesn't need containment.
Let's just see where John goes with this. You've just now brought up the air we breathe, something I didn't do and didn't make a claim about it. So what about that air we breathe? How is that? Is that pressurized gas?
So you're saying there's a difference between the air we breathe and pressurized gas?
I didn't bring it up. You did. Is the air we breathe pressurized gas? Was my question.
Yes.
And so therefore it's going to require containment to achieve that.
Right, where's your dome at, flat earther?
What dome? I didn't claim a dome.
Look, if I'm going to get you into a false dichotomy, you need to accept the dome.
I don't accept the dome. I don't accept that. I have no idea what the sky is, nor do I need to know. I only know that without the container there can be no pressure, and as you rightly point out, we live in a pressurized system.
I don't like John's straw man of trying to define the shape of containment. There's no inference we can draw with regard to the shape of the containment. We can only use natural law to deduce there must be containment.
The atmosphere doesn't need containment.
From Nathan's standpoint, or from how he's arguing, actually, it's just a known fact that in order to have gas pressure, containment is required. Like just discussing the topic on its own without any context of why we're talking about it, it's, well, yeah, in order to have pressure, then you have to have a volume for the gas to fill to read the pressure. But when we're talking about air, it's you that then makes the makes the logical leap that, yeah, well, we're breathing air, so there must be containment then. So unless you're going to argue the fact that gas pressure requires containment, you have to make a claim that perhaps it's something other than something physical.
Well, no,
it's
not at that point, though, hold on. That's not a claim. That's just stating an antecedent consequent relationship. That's not making a claim.
No. I'm saying if the person arguing against you claims Well, actually, there is a way that we can have air next to a vacuum. If you're not taking the bait, then they have to make a claim. But you're not making a claim, you're just stating fact.
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I was trying to... John's too smart to be led in that way. But ultimately speaking, yeah, that's where I'd lead them. And at some point, they will make the logical inference for me. And as long as I've made no claim about ice walls or domes at that point, it's then on them to make that inference, and therefore their claim in terms of the necessary antecedent consequent relationship that we have for gas pressure, I can leave it out there without making any inference. That's a statement of fact.
I want to make my statement.
Go on then, Arwin.
Gas pressure is a straw man. Atmospheric pressure doesn't need containment.
Atmosphere is an oxymoron. Air doesn't take sphere shapes, it takes the shape of its containment.
I was just going to say that, like, I was demonstrating a tactic. False dichotomy, like, it's a big one. If you're in this subject at all, you've run into it probably 1,000 times where they try to make you defend a position that's not your own. Nathan's too good.
Well, they tell you that gravity does the containment. That's what they tell you.
We did cover this already, but any scientific evidence of gravity?
Bottles of helium.
That's not scientific evidence of gravity.
We had scientific evidence. We'd have an observation first. Do we have that?
No, there's no phenomena to study.
Okay.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
So there, we've got plenty of observations. Do we have any? Can we proceed from that point, though? Do we have a independent variable we can manipulate?
No.
Well, if you're a heliocentrist, you cannot put that observation out there without invoking a model with the radius value.
You mute chocolate.
Nobody in their field uses the scientific method, so I mean they probably could, but they just don't.
We get the full quote from Michio Kaku.
Chocolate, go.
Nobody in my field uses the scientific method. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. Seat of the pants.
That says it all. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius.
Equator distance. You can't measure the radius. You can only calculate it.
From a flat plane.
Derive it from the terrain.
A flat plane.
Yeah.
Oh, that concludes the housekeeping. Jolly good stuff. 100 people watching. There was about 5 minutes ago, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow. Shout out to all of you in the live stream. Thank you very much to all of you who smashed the share button already. If you haven't done so, please smash the share button. So you asked an interesting question yesterday, John, about whether or not we would actually reach the point of understanding in regards to the black swan argument and therefore the elevation angle argument if we hadn't have had a couple of years of discussion on begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculators, then on refraction, terrestrial, and the false equivalence with actual refraction. If we hadn't have gone through that process, there's a good chance that we wouldn't have the appreciation and the ability to debate the subject in the way we do. Which also then raises the question, well, if we need to have advanced in that method for that period, what chance has a normie got who comes here to the tip of the spear? That's my question to you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, as far as how do you translate that information into something easily digestible for someone who's new to the subject? That's hard to do because you're trying to fit, 5 years of knowledge and understanding, semantical range of words into, a few sentences. Hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, it will come with the elevation angle argument. But certainly I think the consensus amongst us was the one we would universally all agree on, not necessarily use first, is gas pressure without a container. If you're confronted with a newbie, and I've done this myself, and you're talking about it, you don't then have to mention the dirty words of flat Earth and have all the associated stigma attached to it by pointing out that space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. You can fit that in a tweet. But yeah, elevation angle argument is a lot more long-winded to discuss. Not because it's complicated, but because there's a good chance that the person you're discussing with it doesn't necessarily understand the maths or the implications of the maths. So therefore, you've got to explain it to them. When you measure an angle. Go on.
I was going to say there's that, and then the Eratosthenes thing, like, that was taught to all of us as proof of a sphere. If someone's going to turn around and point at Eratosthenes and say, look, he measured a 500-mile flat plane, you know, their immediate knee-jerk reaction is that they're going to want to fight that because they've been taught otherwise.
Then it's not as good.
Don't remind them of the dingleberry.
Well, you're not necessarily drawing out tangent planes when you do that with Eratosthenes, right? You're just detailing what he actually did. I'm pretty sure that will get developed, John, with time. You've just got to keep bringing it up so that over time it develops.
Yeah, I agree that it's the knee-jerk reaction, though, of when you hear contradictory information to what you think you know to want to dispute it. And that's just a natural human, how people are. And Eratosthenes was one of those things that was drilled into us when we were young as proof of a sphere, and it's not.
I quite like the idea of tossing the hand grenade back from the anti-flat Earth rhetoric that is the Flat Earth Society. So I've done this a few times in comments recently, which is when somebody will address you in the subject matter but outside of the arena. So in the pre-show I was talking about, what did I say the channel name was? Robot Underground. You know, the subject's come up because I've confronted him about his belief in travelling to the moon. So obviously that opens up the discussion for people asking it. But my response was to say pretty much the same rhetoric that the anti-Flat Earth Society put out and ask them if they still believe boats fall over a sphere-edge horizon. I've just taken that because I thought that's clever, that is. You know, take your weakest part of your argument and then spin it into something that your opponent has to defend. So then you don't have to defend it, they defend it. Wonderful. Well, that's not a difficult hand grenade to toss straight back over the fence, is it? Because they do actually have a sphere edge for boats to go over. I mean, it's not just some farcical notion that they've created and imposed on us, flat earthers. That's actually their rhetoric. They do actually have boats falling over an edge. So to rephrase that and repackage it back at somebody who's never come across the subject, that's a shock. Like, what do you mean boats falling over the edge? But there's enough context in that to trigger people into a realisation that literally boats are falling over an edge in the globe model.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not able to be a little bit more involved in this conversation. I'm getting assaulted by kids. But
yeah, I can hear it. I think, it's okay.
Yeah, the Eratosthenes thing is going to be, I think, the simplified form of the sextant argument.
I totally agree. It removes the horizon. So you don't need anything other than a flat plane and an angle. So it doesn't get any more simplistic in terms of breaking down what he did and how it proves a flat Earth within a few sentences. And it will get refined over time. No doubt. John's just cued everybody else in this discussion to step in. Did anyone pick up on that very unsubtle hint that he just gave out? Let's hope. We'll find out.
I can't. I'm working. Sorry.
I didn't hear it.
I missed it.
Oh, well, it's glad that you're all paying so close of attention to what John and I are discussing. Thank you, Jesus. He said he's got kids to look after and they're all jumping on him, so he won't open the mic and cause audio chaos. But that ultimately means that one of you's got to step up, otherwise I'm going to have verbal diarrhea for the next half an hour.
What were you talking to him about?
Does it matter?
Well, if I know the subject, I can join in while he can't or something. That's all I can do.
Eratosthenes.
Aristosthenes.
Yeah, okay. Eratosthenes, yeah, okay. Eratosthenes, it would be impossible for him, I did hear this at the start, it's like, no, Eratosthenes, it would be impossible for him to use a tangent plane. The whole point is he's supposed to be measuring a distance. But he's measuring a distance with an angle. So it's an angular measurement that gives you a distance. That's what he's doing, using the GP of the sun, right? So because he's using an angle, and it's an angular, and he's using the GP of the sun, right? And he needs to gain the distance from where he is to the GP of the sun, which would have been the well. Then it has to be a straight line distance, right? You can't turn that into a curved distance of between the two locations, the observer and the GP. Because you turn that into a curved distance, it changes the distance. Because a straight line and a curved line within the same parameters are two different distances. So, no, he measured a flat plane. No, is there anything else to talk about?
You did release a video which I watched today, or maybe it was late last night and I just didn't see it, Brian, in regards to having parallel lines. Did you want to plug that video? Because it was a good video.
Well, I've released two very similar ones in the past couple of days. The one I released there would be last night. That is called 60 flat nautical miles per degree, because I'm detailing how the process of using nautical miles, because you have to use 1 minute of degree, right? For 1 minute of degree to become 1 nautical mile, then there's a specific distance, let's just say, that's attributed to that 1 minute of degree, right? And it's a slightly bigger mile than a statute mile, and that's how, and because they needed to fit 60, into 1 degree, they needed to do it that way. So I think it's the Babylonian system, I think Adam says. But the thing about it is that to do this process, it requires parallel zeniths. The observer's zenith and the zenith from the GP are required to be parallel. You can't use 60 nautical miles per degree without using parallel zeniths. But in the globe model, they have to have diverging zeniths. They can't have parallel zeniths. So consequently, the problem they have then is they can't use 60 nautical miles per degree, because to get a zenith, they all don't understand the difference between a zenith angle and a zenith distance. Your co-altitude distance, right, what that means is that the observer's zenith, right, must match the altitude of the celestial body above the GP. So if you're on a globe and you're using Polaris, you're trying to, not that you can take one from a curved surface, but you can pretend you have a tangent plane, let's just say, right? And you take an angle to Polaris, and that angle is 45 degrees. Now, technically, in the real flat world, that would be 2,700 nautical miles from the GP of Polaris. But in globe world, Polaris is 434, I think it is, light years away. So that means your co-altitude from the surface of your globe for your zenith as the observer must be 434 light years away. But then because those zeniths are diverging, the line, which will be the depression angle, so if your angle is going to Polaris, right, your depression angle then has to go across, it's the roof of the elevation angle. Not that you don't have a real elevation angle, obviously, because it's on a sphere, but you can't do that, but you can create a depression angle. But your depression angle then will be greater than 434 light years away, or light years of a distance, because your zeniths are diverging and your co-altitude is 434 light years. So your distance will be hundreds of light years. Your zenith distance, your co-altitude distance will be hundreds of light years. So you can't use minutes of degree or a minute of degree to match nautical miles, because your distances will always be crazy. You'll never be able to do it, because you have to take into account the co-altitude, which is the actual the height of the star, the actual altitude of the star. But when you're using parallel zeniths, you don't have to do any of that. That's why celestial navigation never need to deal with the height and altitude of stars. It doesn't matter if a star is 1 mile up or 1 million miles up, because it's parallel zeniths. the distance will always be equal all the way down through all that area of those parallels. All
Which means
the way down to the surface of the Earth.
Exactly,
the Earth has to be flat.
Exactly, to the surface of the Earth, which means that the roof, as you described it, is also parallel with the ground. And the distance between the two matches, well, again, as you said, you can only achieve that if the zeniths are parallel. And as soon as you have them diverging, as you go further up, the distance increases. So it's not going to match the ground. So it doesn't work. It's just that simple.
No, the 60 nautical miles per degree is designed around a horizontal plane, a horizontal baseline. Because you have to use a box system. You have to use a box system where the roof of that box becomes your zenith distance. And the base of that box...
Don't mention 90.
Yeah. Well, we have no choice. We have to mention it now. Because the base of that box is your horizontal distance. If you have 2,700 minutes of degree of an angle or a zenith distance, that becomes 2,700 nautical miles along the surface of Earth in a straight horizontal line. Along the baseline, the 0 degrees baseline or whatever of Earth. See, this can't be done. And there's something else. I won't be able to show it right now, but I'll present my screen a little bit later. There's something else that completely annihilates the globe as well in all of this. It's just an extra thing. It does matter, but it is. I'd have to show it to explain it. But where even their depression angle, it makes no sense when they do it, right? Because they can't do an elevation angle. They can only do a depression angle. But the point is they can't do any of this. And they don't understand this. They're arguing like crazy with me. I have hundreds and hundreds of comments in the past 2 videos. I put out another video there, the second video there this morning, late last night, and I have hundreds of comments already on it. Because they can't understand. They don't get it. Your co-altitude has to match the altitude of the celestial body. But you don't need to claim an altitude to the celestial body using parallel zeniths on a flat plane. Just like they don't claim any altitudes to these celestial bodies in celestial navigation. But if you're using diverging zeniths, then you have to use your whatever, like your distance, whatever you want to claim. And what does it become then? Ridiculous distances. It'll never match. It'll never be 1 minute of degree for 1 nautical mile.
I just noticed
it will be crazy.
I just noticed in your comments that people have started to declare that you need the height of the star. Again, I was quite amused by that. I was like, didn't they do that after 2 or 3 days? Try roping us into a height distance. And the way that they were angling for it was because some flat earthers with a stereotyping fallacy do ascribe a height. And how their height is up to infinity. Whereas if you do it with our height, it's like, what do you mean our height? You don't need the height. That's not necessary. They run parallel. It doesn't matter how high it is. All that matters is the position below it. Well, it can only be below it if it's parallel, not if it's diverging. Then it screws up everything. Doesn't work anymore. Great comment from Super Chatter Godzilla37, who says, and I'm going to read this twice because it's brilliant. I'll start that again, I've ballsed it up already. It's a globe if you believe it. Full stop. It's concave if you believe it. Full stop. It's flat if you measure it. That's a brilliant Super Chat, Godzilla37. Thank you very much indeed for the support also.
Yep, well said.
Very well said.
Well, I was going to say, Nathan's knocking the height of the star argument, but that was able to prove my kitchen wasn't flat. So I like that argument.
Yeah, they like it too, don't they? It's just not necessary. Again, if you want to argue that you need the height of the star, then you're arguing against celestial navigation, not us. Your beef is with that process, because it's not needed. It's just needed for a little flat earthy straw man to burn now, isn't it?
If they don't understand that, but if they don't realise why we're not claiming a height of a star, even though they'd love us to do that, and they don't realise why celestial navigation are not claiming a height of a star, they probably didn't watch the video they're commenting on, more than likely, or they don't understand it. They don't get this. Right? I have so many of them telling me, these so-called globe experts, telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and then they go on to try and correct me. And it's an absolute train wreck is all they come up with. They don't have a clue about what they're talking about. They are learning about celestial, I'll say it again, they're learning about celestial navigation from Prototad, MC Toon, Bob the Science Guy, Fight the Flat Earth. All these people are jokers. None of these people know what they're talking about. They don't know when you should use above a sextant, when you should use like a Mariner sextant. They don't know that the dip correction is only mathematical. There's so many things they just don't know. This is such a simple thing. You cannot use 60 nautical miles per degree without parallel zeniths. It's impossible. Yet not one of them seems to be able to come back with a video proving that you can use it with diverging zeniths. Not one of them. It's been days now. I have a second video out. Not one of them. But they'll all tell us that we don't know what we're talking about and want us to declare a height to the stars. Why would we do that? Celestial navigation don't declare an altitude to any of these stars. So why would we be doing it? There's no need. We use parallel zeniths. That's your problem. The height of the stars that destroy, the distance to your stars that destroy your model are your problem, Globers.
Cool. Another quick shout out to Super Chatter. I'm just digging it out for you. Goldie McKinnon says, how can I get a copy of that flyer that guy put through people's mailboxes? I want to do something similar. Very, very strange coincidence. That was one of the subjects of the pre-show, Goldie McKinnon. I'll see if I can dig it out. I'll put it up on screen, and then you can screenshot it or whatever. If I can find it. Hopefully that won't kill the conversation completely while I'm doing two things at once.
Well, I was thinking about putting out a challenge, putting $5,000 on somebody demonstrating an angle with a curved baseline. Thinking about it. Just because I know it's impossible.
Good challenge, because no one's going to take our money.
Yeah, the best they're going to be able to do is draw another straight line and use that as their baseline to claim that they got an angle, you know? Like, they're not going to be able to get an angle from it.
You mean the best they're going to be able to do is a really stupid thing that won't win them any money?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
and
they will do it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing. It's like, how do you get an angle from a curved baseline? Well, instead of just admitting you can't, I'm going to draw another line and use that as the baseline now, and then draw another line and say there's a relationship to that line, and that'll be the new baseline, and then we'll get an angle from that.
Yeah, that's a solid challenge. No one's winning that money.
Okay, I found this image, so I'll stick it up. But while I'm doing it, I'll just fill the audience in on what this is. So I got a message about a week ago now, and that message was in regards to some proactive publicity somebody had done for the show. And what they'd essentially done is drawn up a leaflet or a document, 1,000 of them, and just gone around their local area. The name of the YouTuber, if you want to give him a shout or see him in the chat, is Sensual Goat. So check out that person. Let's just see if I can send this to Skype so I can put it on screen. Bear with me a second. But yeah, that person resulted in a reasonable uptake in terms of the number of subscribers that I couldn't figure out why. And then this person contacted me by email and said, by the way, this is something I've done. Anything you want to change or add or whatever, or if there's an issue, just let me know. I was like, no, thank you very much. I don't have the resources or the time to do proactive marketing for Nathan Oakley 1980 or Flat Earth Debate. So when someone else goes out of their way to do it for me, I'm very, very grateful for it. I'm not going to lie. That said, I'm struggling to get this bloody picture sent to Skype. Talk amongst yourselves again, if you would.
You didn't give us the topic, like.
I've got a quick fill-up, if you wish. I'm just sharing my screen. Nathan set me off on a little mission the other day. When he mentioned about Masonic symbols and stuff. And this one I come across, and I just thought it's really interesting. It uses right angles. How you ever wondered how you make your square, and how you make sure your cornerstones are square? And it uses Pythagorean theorem and the 47th problem of Euclid. So we're probably all familiar with the 3, 4, 5 relationship. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. But what you can do to actually, like I say, define a square, whether you're laying a foundation stone or setting up your actual square, making your square square, you take a piece of string and you tie knots every whatever distance, it doesn't matter, every foot or every inch or whatever, and you do 12 of them. So you've got 12 knots and 12 little segments. And then what the mason will do is he'll use the stars to align on the ground a true north-south straight line. And then he'll take his circle of string and he'll fix this side down his true north side straight line. And using the knowledge of geometry, he'll pull it tight. Now, at the point where both sides are tight, straight lines, it will then naturally, because this is straight, it's been fixed straight, it will naturally form a right-angled triangle here. And that is how a mason, I don't know whether that squares the circle or, but it's how he squares a square. And it's to use right angles and Euclid's 47th problem.
Cool. I didn't know that. Anyone else knew that?
They don't need to. They don't need to do any of that. They just need to get the knots on the string, pull it tight, and just then use the knots to create a right angle.
Yeah, that's what you do. So your first line is true north-south. So if you're lining a building up, that's why you line it up true. As long as you've got a straight line, it doesn't matter if you're just squaring your square. But if you're squaring a building, so that's how they do it. But I just find it interesting that it uses that geometric principle and not a ruler, not a fixed straight line, but a bit of string is the thing you use. And that knowledge of geometry, that those relations, those 3, 4, 5 relationships will make that perfect 90-degree for you.
Perfect. Any other comments before I read out this flyer done by Sensual Goat? So it's on screen. I didn't give anyone a chance to actually answer that. Technically rhetorical. Dear resident, this is a free invitation to join the most relevant and compelling show that encompasses so much of the world that we experience. Should you be interested, here are some of the questions and points to consider beforehand. Any evidence of gas pressure without a container? Any evidence of a geometric sphere edge horizon? Any evidence that one can acquire an elevation angle from a perpetually curved surface? These are just a few of many interesting discussions that take place at Nathan Oakley 1980 on YouTube. There is a free show live Monday to Friday 2 p.m. GMT. Feel free to join the show and share your views on the nature of Earth. Thank you for taking your time to read me. There you
go. Well, as far as a place to actually...
Go on, John.
I was just going to say a place to put those, the best place to put those would be like a college or something where those kind of discussions are already happening. You know what I mean? Because that's what college is supposed to be for.
Indeedy. So yeah, I'm very grateful. Big shout out to Sensual Goat again. Thank you very much for doing that. Totally unprompted.
It's a good idea.
And that's what I said is, yeah, the metropolitan areas, because like, well, yeah, for sure. I can dump them around NYU area, downtown Brooklyn, pretty much where all the kids hang out. The J line, lots of kids with inquiring minds on that line. I mean, because it's always like that. There's an advertisement. It's like, I wonder whose Instagram that is. Let me check it out. Because there's nothing else to do on the train. Like there's a lot of good places. There's a lot. I like this idea because I was thinking about doing this for 24/7 too.
Awesome. I'm all for it, obviously. Yeah, so there you go. So that's the proactive promotion that this channel's been getting, which is wonderful. And although we did say it last time this came up, I can't see the same thing ever happening for our counterparts. You know, if you got a thing through your door saying, by the way, Earth's a sphere, and we discussed this, you'd be like, what? Yeah, that's not my subject. I'm not interested. But who would do that for our opponents? I just can't see that being the case. I mean, maybe someone will prove me wrong and go, no, look, check out this YouTuber on the anti-flat Earth side and this dude that just randomly went out and proactively promoted him without him asking.
Well, it would be kind of damaging for them to go out and start telling people that Earth's not flat, you know. That would undermine their whole position. Because then people will be like, what do you mean Earth's not flat? What are you talking? Like, it'd make them start thinking.
But that's the problem.
That would unchain a whole...
Just putting it into people's minds that there's even a discussion about this. I think to some of them, that the ones that get really triggered about this, I think to them it's dangerous.
It's really the word.
That's one way.
Flat. They just don't want that word flat.
Okay, well, I wasn't...
You can view it as...
Go on, Adam.
Like that, in terms of, you're talking about plopping leaflets in. And I can't envisage anybody putting, did you know the Earth's a globe leaflet? So no one's going to pick them up. These ones, you're either going to get laughed at, like we do, or actually you're going to get a point of ridicule. What I think would be more strange would be these anti-flat earthers. Do you fancy coming on a show and proving to people that the Earth isn't flat? Imagine how a normie looks at people like that use all their time to go and prove that the Earth is a ball. Come every day, live debate to show that the Earth's a ball against these people that think it's flat. It's a very different commitment, their life. And like I say, it's defined by ours.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
This would make a great sketch for Darth.
That's something I noticed in the comments, Adam. Exactly that. I don't go to any of these anti-flat Earth channels. I'm not interested in any of them. They don't define my life. I don't care what their opinions are and their beliefs are in terms of a sphere. None of that concerns me. By contrast, that's their life. Us, what we say. They're here all the time. I get plenty of commenters from the opponent side. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of people on the flat Earth that are deeply concerned with what anti-flat Earthers have to say. I'm just not one of them.
It's fun watching them become supposed experts when we raise a topic. Fun watching them.
He said he made a video this morning, right? You released a video this morning, and how many comments you got on your video already? So how did it get so many comments? Right? Is it being shared in the underthrows of the anti-flat earthers? Like, are they subscribed to you? Exactly, and it's triggering them. That's why you have so many views and comments.
Yeah, I have videos where I could have over 1,000 views, let's say 1.2 thousand views, and I only have 30 likes. So what does that tell you? And I have maybe 700, 800, or maybe 1,000 comments. Now, this kind of thing. Like, so what? And the majority of them, I'm talking 90% of them, are pure garbage comments, pure gaslighting and just red herrings and just attacks, personal attacks. So that's all I have. It's just a load of hate. Like, you know, it's getting to the point actually where I'm starting to not have to even reply to them, because in any way, not that I could reply to all of them, but I don't even need to hardly much reply to them, because it's so ridiculous the amount of hate that's in there. It's obvious for any normal person who goes there that, hang on, this is just a load of hate. This is not someone's opinion or some facts or something. This is just hate. So, you know, I only posted a video early this morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's 3 o'clock in the day now. And I already, an hour and a half ago, had well over 200 or 300 or something comments. And they're all majority of, a few of them only are flat earthers. The majority of them are a load of anger and hate from other people.
Well, what I get shown, because as I say, I don't watch this stuff, but often people will trim it out or comment on it, and that I do see. And that is exactly the sentiment that I pick up on. It's like, wow, this is a lot of hatred directed in our direction. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that it's socially acceptable to poke fun at flat earthers, but there is still a community guidelines line that I believe they often step over. Now, they're in a very small corner of the internet, slightly bigger than ours now. It wasn't always the case. But they're still in a small corner of the internet and basically getting away with it. Now, don't get me wrong, I can't give you any specific examples where I can say, here you go, this is a grey area where they're very close to the line in terms of the YouTube guidelines, and here's an example where they're over the line but just getting away with it. But like I say, I'm just speaking in general terms from what people send me. I often raise an eyebrow and go, if I could be bothered, I could definitely go and find a YouTube guideline that's broken, being reasonably familiar with the YouTube guidelines and community guidelines, whatever they call them. But like I say, I don't care. Now, by contrast, again, people are constantly trying to do that sort of crap to this channel. You know, I've got used to it now. It's water off a duck's back because none of it's ever successful. But ultimately speaking, they're trying to find an angle in that way and probably studying the YouTube guidelines to see if there's anything they can wangle to get rid of me. But I've got no such concern. I don't want to shut down my opponents. You know, there is a certain symbiotic relationship that I understand in that regard. I don't like it, but it's necessary. It's part of the arena. I accept it. But it doesn't mean that I want to go out of my way to shut down YouTube channels from my opponent's side. They do.
Well,
John first. Go on, John.
I was going to say when we were talking about the leaflet, and like if the opponent's side had to put something on it, there's the actual spreading of information about this actually being a debatable topic is actually detrimental to them. So even if somebody on their side went out and decided to print, anti-flat Earth pamphlets, I don't think that would benefit them. So it has to be set up in a way for them to have any kind of benefit. Is someone who's already looking into the subject needs to find them.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
They are, not just because they often disagree with the globe rhetoric in the first instance, but in general, for what you've just described, equally as dangerous as us. And I think they are, anti-flat earthers, this is, segregated into the same or similar corner of the internet that we are. Just doesn't seem that way to them because of the promotion they get within this small corner of the internet. It's disproportionately larger than us, and therefore, well, they're popular and we're not. Well, if it was a popularity contest as opposed to who's got the argument that wins, that would matter. And to them, with their surface level religious belief in a sphere, it does matter to them. But it doesn't alter the fact that what they are and what they represent is actually very detrimental to the very cause that they're fighting for, as is actually your point, John. I'm just reiterating it, really.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You could go out and print anti-flat Earth flyers and put them up, and it would be maybe even more detrimental than posting flat Earth flyers.
Yeah, and by not contrast, by comparison, when they had, was it in the Senate, literally YouTube having to say, oh yes, we'll do something about this problem of the debate of flat Earth being on YouTube, and we'll put a tramp stamp underneath. That I thought was the same principle. It's like, surely having this televised, overt censorship of a subject disseminated to the people, that can't be good. It's like telling people they can't listen to Frankie Goes to Hollywood on the radio. Well, what do? They all go and buy the album.
Right, because it's
Streisand kind of effect.
Streisand effect, yes, correct.
Well, but what I was going to say actually ties exactly into this, so it's interesting that John brought it up, just the way he did. I was going to say a story. There's a lady, I'm just going to say a lady, I don't know what age the girl is, but she was commenting on my channel back a couple of months ago, just kind of around November, December, and she was only after kind of getting into the subject. She only kind of came across some stuff, and she was asking questions. She didn't know what was what. But I had a video up. It was one of my videos on on airplanes and that, one of those. And while she was in my comments, she wasn't looking for trouble or hassle, but suddenly you had Wolfie and all these other negative people jumping down her throat saying, don't listen to him, don't do this. And it's like, you can't do this. He doesn't know anything. He's all wrong about everything and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, look, I'm just asking questions. And they just were in her face, right? And so she ended up, I had to go back in there once or twice and leave a comment. Because I think I said to her, look, just ignore them. But because of their behaviour, that she now is fully like the last comment I got off for was on last night's video, the video from 2 days ago, where she was saying, ignore all these idiots. Do you know what I mean? So they made sure, like Wolf and all these other trolls, they all made sure that she definitely questioned things more with their personal attacks on me, and then eventually became, I think, personal attacks on her, even though she wasn't actually a flat earther at the time. She was just asking questions. But because of their hate and their negativity and the way they were going about it, because they're so desperate, it's like any normal person, because she was just a normal person, would go exactly as she did. It's like, hang on. What's the problem?
That's what it is, Brian. The normal people can't be asking questions. It's dangerous.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980. I keep forgetting that we're live because of Discord issues. For all of you in the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!